welcome to this new series, The Mariner, with me, Chris Stanwell Major. And for this episode, we're going to be introducing our boat, Hellcat. Hellcat was built in 2000. She's an IMOCA 60, and in 2000 she was one of the hottest new boats on the scene. Open 60s, 60 feet long as you might imagine, but with towering 100-foot masts and with incredibly wide hull forms that make them super stable. This kind of boat is designed for racing through the Southern Ocean, so they have these 180-degree rollover tests. They also have 5 watertight bulkheads, so the boat is extremely safe in some of the most difficult environments on the planet. You can see this boat's got this enormous mainsail because Dominic Wyeth, the initial skipper of this boat, wanted to optimize the boat for upwind work, and that's very unusual for open 60s. The boat came fourth in the 2004 Vendée Globe before being sold to Kajiro, who's a Velux 5 Oceans competitor, in 2006. Kajiro did a fantastic job with this boat. Kajiro always sails in honor of his late sailing mentor Yuko Tada, and his boat, Spirit of Yuko, came in second in the 2006 V50. I bought the boat in 2016, but she had not sailed for 10 years. Okay, so the project begins. The first thing, as always, is we've got to get some motive power. On these boats, the engine is the generator, so if I can get the power going, get the engine going, it means I've got electricity, it means I've got heat, because the thing actually also runs through a little heater here, and we've got the ability to move the boat. So the engine becomes the heart of what's going on. So everything I do now has got to be towards getting that organized. From my point of view, there's not much about the engine that I'm not happy working on. I guess the thing which I've learned over the years is just you got to jump in, you got to do it. Once in a while, like when we picked up Challenger, the engine is just brand new and you don't have to do anything. Check the levels, dust it off with a rag, and off you go. Other times, well, probably this one here actually is about the worst we've seen in a while. It's not been used for many years, and although it might start up and run, we have to be very careful that it's not doing that just out of good grace, and we actually cause it to damage itself. So the outside is starting to tidy up and clean up. A lot of that is actually to do with just starting to feel good about what's going on. What happens inside here now, though, is we've got to turn it into a bit of a workshop, and we've got to get that engine running. Here is just started to get the interior of the boat a little bit tidied away. You can see behind me the nav station now laid out with the equipment that I'm using. Over here, I've just stuck things onto these bunks, really. I know, a little bit of a line on the top there, some 8mm that I found, my sleeping bag from last night, and then cleaning gear and some rope down the bottom. And behind the rope is the kind of covers that come off the engine bay. What happens on these race boats is that you want to make the gear inside the boat as light as possible. All this stuff is made just out of foam and a thin slice of e-glass or carbon on top of it. The way that the engine's covered up, here we go, it's just this frame here. The frame supports the bed. Once that comes off, there's a lot of covers which are actually just basically PVC nylon that covers the engine. It's not quiet, but it does mean that once it's off, obviously you've got the ability to really work in and around the engine very, very easily. So that's all cleared out. Now, in terms of getting the boat fixed up, we've got tools coming on the way now from our last job from California where we were on charger. I've got 2 big bags of gear there that are on the way, the diving gear, all that kind of stuff that's going to allow that to happen, the cleaning of the boat to happen. Now, I'm here in the UK, and so that presents an interesting possibility. My parents' place is actually down in Somerset. Unfortunately, my father's no longer with us. He was a mechanic though, left me a lot of tools, and so I can actually go there rather than for once having to go to Home Depot or a B&Q or whatever it is and go and buy hundreds and hundreds of pounds of the tools. I can actually get my hands on the tools which I was taught on, basically, my father's tools, and can bring them in on this project. So that's going to be quite special, but that's a couple of days away. So I've got what everybody has when they get an old boat and they want to stick it back together again. I have a crusty box here which has got some old rubbishy tools in. So what I've done is I took all the tools out and gave the box a clean, just with some spray and some tissue, nothing too fancy, and that left me with a little pile of tools down here, which we can have a look through and see if there's enough in here to fix things up. Now the guys that had the boat before did a trick that I love, holding all the spanners together like this. It does make them a little bit difficult to get out when you want them, but at least they're always there when you want them, as opposed to hiding all over the boat. And then we've got what you might expect, kind of knacky old set of pliers, like 800 files, which I just gave a little bit of a clean off with a brass brush. Quite what they were getting up to with loads of files, I don't know, but there's heaps of them. Brass brushes, if you don't know these, absolutely brilliant for cleaning up tools, for cleaning up anything really on a boat. Only downside, all of the bristles break off and they get stuck in your feet if you're like this instantly. So as soon as you had to go with one of these, I just cleaned all the tools kind of inside the toolbox and then wipe the toolbox out. If you're using this on deck, you've got to wash down afterwards. But there's a good array of stuff. I've also been, as you know, to the dollar store, and the dollar store, or the pound stretcher as it's called here in the UK. Lots of little things that could be useful. Little utility knives, zip ties, that kind of thing. Oh, of course, what would a boat be without black tape? So we've got the basis of some kit here. So let's have a look at the engine and have a see exactly what it is that we're dealing with here. Okay, so what we've got here, a little 3JH Yanmar. It's the turbo version. You can see it just over here. So we've got to get in now and have a see if this thing's going to run or not. You can see down here, it's all kind of rusty, and there's verdigris and a right mess of oxidizing chemicals down here. I think the boat ended up about 4 or 5 inches deep in water, which is probably just coming down through the mast, leaking through the windows. These boats, these kind of race boats, no time is taken really to make sure that Teddy doesn't get wet when you're sleeping inside one of these. It's rough and ready, and things are thrown together. It's a little bit better on this kind of boat because actually this is a fixed keel rather than a canting keel with the big box arrangement where the cylinders and the trunnions are to control the canting keel. But water does come in. You can do your damnedest to try and keep it out, but ultimately things do leak a little bit, and obviously this boat's been left for 10 years. Although it's been looked over, it's maybe not been looked after. So the main issue I can see down here already, we've got this arrangement which is, you've got dual throttle controls. The actual throttle control for the engine comes in over here. Is that right? Oh no, it's better than that. It comes in here. It's been disconnected, and now there's a piece of string that does the throttle work. This other guy here goes to the gearbox, which is also disconnected. And from a little go earlier, it's moving into 2 positions. but there should be 3 positions unless this boat has no reverse. So looks like we've got a seized gearbox. The throttle arrangement would lead me to think that probably the throttle actual mechanisms are jammed. A lot of rust and what have you. So what I've done with these in the past is just get it going and then hope it works, and then you know, kind of make it work from there. But what I've learned is that you're better just to start out as you mean to go on. Just get in here now, and with a brass brush, or probably a steel brush on this guy, just start cleaning everything as best you possibly can. Have a look over the hoses, check all of the little pipe clamps and everything that's holding things together, Jubilee clips if you're British. Let's go through the oil, check the condition of the oil, any seals that are obvious, and start looking around. Like, you can be a bit of a investigator here as well. There's a massive amount of dust on the floor. Okay, now this amount of dust, if it was from the exhaust, well, it'd probably be over there because the exhaust's on the other side. But just having a look earlier and investigating, see there's all kinds of rust right down there on top of the sail drive. That's actually where there's a little hole in the side of the bell housing. The flywheel's spinning around. If this has been 3 or 4 inches deep in water, then the inside of the bell housing and the actual flywheel are probably completely covered in rust. So I'm guessing that when it starts up, there's going to be a huge plume of rusty dust. I imagine they tried to start the engine when it came down off the stands and came into the water. So we can maybe just curtain that off with a bit of old wet sheet or something like that. The only way to get it out of there is to let it run it out, but I don't want the whole cabin filled with it. So if we can get it going, then we can have a see. Now the other thing I see over here, look at this. This engine's got fresh water inside, and then it has a heat exchanger to the raw water that comes through. Like on Challenger's generator is a very similar model to this one, but it's just pure raw water cooling. So this has got an internal freshwater system. That tank is completely and utterly dry. Now it's possible that it's just evaporated off over 10 years. It's going to be very hot in here, but more likely is that it's balled its arse out at some point, and that may mean we're looking at an engine which has been misused towards the end of its last operational period. The intakes might be blocked. So we can start to do a little bit of kind of Sherlock Holmesing before we even start the thing up. The worst case scenario is that it is essentially okay, the engine, but it's got a couple of major issues, and then we start it up out of pure excitement to kind of hear it running, and then we actually cause the disaster. So this kind of engine, we need to look now at its diesel, so we're looking for air and fuel, lubrication and cooling, transmission of drive, and I would add to that the major issue that we want to see with this engine. We want to see it producing power. We want to see it producing electrical power. So I can see there's an arrangement over here. This gizmo in here is where there's meant to be a large alternator, and I know when I first came in the boat, yeah, yeah, okay, in here, okay, there's the alternator in there. So these this kind of race boat will have a high amperage alternator, maybe 150 amps, something like that. That guy's pretty heavy, that one. Doesn't say on it easily, but I'd say it's 150. So it'll have one of those for powering up the house batteries, but it also has a little one down there, which is for charging the start battery. So for that initial charge, just what we're doing here now, we can take the feed from that one and get everything going, and then we can look at how to reconnect this guy and what's the situation there. So I'm going to be the light guy and the and the presenter here. This little situation here is basically a black plastic bag over the top of a piece of carpet which I've wetted down, and that's because in there we know there's a heap of rust is going to come flying out of there. That's where the flywheel is. So the next job is I'm going to get the fuel tank reconnected over there, and I've got 20 litres of fuel that I can throw in. And then I also had a look at the oil. I looked at the dipstick. The oil is very, very clean. I imagine they've changed the oil when the boat last went ashore. No kind of emulsion, no emulsification of it, no water in it. It's not creamy anywhere that I can access the oil. So I think we'll get some fuel in. We'll get a couple levels on the fuel on the reserve tank here for the water, the expansion tank rather, and then have a crack at starting it up. Okay, so we've got the fuel tank connected now. We've got the water is up to the strainer, and I know the fan belt's connected to the water pump, so that should be good. The through-hole fitting's open and water's flowing. There's no kinks or bends in the exhaust, and as far as I can see, it's not split or damaged. We know it's going to chuck a load of rust out through that hole on the bell housing. That's kind of covered, and it's got a wet bit of carpet there to catch it all. Fuel's up at the filter. Water's in the cooling system. Oil's been checked. Batteries have got 12.6 on them. So let's give it a razz and see if we can have a functioning engine as opposed to some catastrophe which really could put this project on the rocks. Let's have a see. Okay. All good? Not very happy. Probably needs a bit of throttle. So first check is for water. Yeah. Now it's sucked down the water that was in the bowl, but it's not replacing it with any water from outside. So it might just need a little bit of RPM just to get it going. We'll have to see if we can make that happen. Okay, so success, it's running, it's sucking water and blowing it outside just as it should do. Very simple solution in the end. The problem, of course, being the wrong valve was open, pretty simple. There's two through-hole fittings really close together. One of them seems to be for bilge pumping arrangement. They're labeled in French and Japanese, neither of which I understand. But a quick search of the pipes revealed the mistake. So yeah. It's getting quieter now as well as everything starts to, the oil starts to run. The water jacket's full. Sounds okay. For an engine that's probably not run in 10 years, sounds just great. You see the alternator belt there needs a little bit of tension. I'm not going to rev it for at least an hour. Just let the warmth come into it, get the oil flowing. You know, you don't want to be revving it and then discover there's a problem when you're at the top of your rev. Cool. So just signed in to QHM, Queen's Hub Master, asked them for permission to leave Gosport. They give me the okay, so we are out of here. I think she likes it. This time with the engine, next time with the sail. So I'm just here now at the westerly end of the Solent. Absolutely fantastic day, couldn't ask for anything better. The wind's just from the north, which is great because I'm going to go out here and turn left and head south towards France. But as we come in here now, it's kind of an interesting moment. This boat hasn't been out there for 10 years. It came in here into the Solent on the back of the 2006 Velux race. I myself came in here last on an Open 60 on the back of the 2010 Velux race, the last one that ran, and it's kind of an important day for both of us. She's finally free of it, and I finally got the steed I need to go off and do another round the world race. So pretty happy here. We got it done like we said we would do. Now it's time to go sailing. At last, I found a way of using my luck in a productive manner. It's all up from here. So we had an incredible morning already with Sylvain. We've gone and found the plans for the boat, which is just epic. They've been in there for 2 years now, and they were at JMV for 15 odd years before that. We digged them out of that little musty old room, and voila, all of the information we could possibly want. Behind me is the fabled, possibly, container of kit for this boat, which has been residing in this container for 10 years. So if we have indeed found it, I'm having a very good day. Okay, so we got the container open, and unbelievably, after 10 years of storage, everything is here. Like, everything is here. There's dagger boards, rudders, telecommunications. This is all sails down here. There's plans. There's everything you could possibly need. Like, this is a very, very good trip, and all thanks to my friend Sylvain over here, who's making it all happen from CMN. So, success! So So this really was the most fantastic conclusion to this project. It was a total wild goose chase going down to Cherbourg with the boat. You know, getting it out of Gosport wasn't that difficult, getting operational, but setting off across the channel, totally unaware of whether my gut instinct, my hunch was correct, finding the container, making that connection with CMN, then finding Sylvain there, who's a sailor and knowledgeable on these open 60s, and he having personally taken the time to make sure this equipment was not thrown out. It all just was the best possible way this could come together. So I left very happy, a couple bits there for Challenger she needed. Took Sylvain down to the boat to show him. He was excited about it and agreed to look after her a little while I was away. And as an incidental, Sylvain's dad is the guy that makes all the models for the Vendée Globe boats, so hugely knowledgeable family on this open 60 class. So the boat then, finishing up, nice and clean, tidy, operational, bags packed on the side deck and ready for another adventure. But I really feel that we've got a solid base here now moving forward. The next stage obviously is to get her back to Canada, get the branding done, get the rigging done, get everything the way we need it to be so we can set off around the world, west about, and really go for that record. But for now, bags are packed, and that's all from me, Chris Major, the Mariner. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.